Hey everyone, welcome to another podcast of Marketing 101. Really fun guest this week. We got Carlin Ankrum from Snap Social joining us this week. I loved her bio, and it's just random how things happen. Sent it to us, and I saw this whole thing about it's not about followers, it's about what you do with your social media. And I was like, oh, thank goodness, more people like me. Thanks for joining us. It's awesome. Thanks for your time.
Thanks
Tell
for
us a little bit
having me.
about
I'm
you. How'd you
excited.
get started? What got you into this? And what do you do, most importantly?
Yeah, so I have always loved writing since I was 10 years old, and I won't take you back that far. But I have a journalism degree, and it was my senior year of college, not to date myself. But that was when Web 2.0 was coming out, and now we're already on to Web 3. And I was like, what this means for us is that social media can be used by companies and organizations to control the narrative around their business. And we didn't have to create a PR, a huge press release to put out on the newswire. We could just share it in a container on, at the time, Facebook to journalists and reporters out there that could grab it and take hold of it and run with it. And that was the angle that I saw coming through, because at that point, gone were the days of where you needed like the coveted like .edu email address to get onto Facebook. It was wide open. It was the wild, wild west. And I realized journalism and, specifically writing and broadcast news for me wasn't the route, because it was a little bit too bad news bears all the time. Like, the news is a lot of bad news. And I am too much of an empath and someone that is too high energy and positive to be down in the dumps. Like, I was like, okay, not my vibe. So then I started to see kind of how social media was starting to come out and how you could have quick conversations in a conversational tone that's approachable. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And so fast forward, I had worked for an association. I've worked for brick and mortar businesses, startups, and something that I have found to be consistent across the board is no one really knew how to grab a hold of social media from a strategic approach, right? A lot of us, especially the Gen Zs out there, they were born with an iPhone in their hand, and they know the tech, they know the mechanics, but they don't really have the strategic background. And that's where I love to dive in, looking at platforms, auditing platforms, understanding what's working and what's not working. And what I found super interesting is, one chiropractic office is not like the other, because who you serve is different, where you're located is different, your methodology sometimes is different. And that was the coolest piece for me, because even if I was serving just dental practices, just chiropractic offices, like, they could all have different strategies, therefore different content coming out the other side. And I found that super empowering, because not only was that keeping me on my toes, which, if anything is constant in social media, it's change, right? But also it kept a little bit more fun for me. So it wasn't the same thing over and over again every single day. And so that's where I was like, this is what I want to do. I left my full-time job. I was approaching the ripe age of 30. And I was like, I'm either going to do this or I'm not, and live with regret of not even giving it a try. And so I've been in it full-time now for 5 years. I built it 2 years before that on the side of my full-time job, like, burning the candle at both ends, quite literally, staying up until 3 a.m. to work on the side business. And it's been great. It's been a challenge. Because I value security, and in entrepreneurship, security isn't a thing. But I also learned through my career that security isn't a thing in a full-time job either, because they can just let you go and it is what it is, So it's been a journey, but a really rewarding one, and one that I wouldn't trade.
Awesome. I think you just speak to most of the chiropractors. They're like, yeah, I feel her. This is how we do it. Yes. It's a battle. I always relate entrepreneurship to battle. People think it's like this guy thinks it's morbid. You're not going to die, but I mean, it's trenches. You got to go through the trenches, and you got to do all this stuff. And it's a completely different work schedule. It's completely different. There is no work-life balance. I hate that acronym or that thing. There's no such thing. because you're never going to balance the two. You're going to work to enjoy life. That's the two things there. Great stuff. So the thing that caught me is the followers. So let's talk about everything. Chiropractors in specific and healthcare professionals are busy. We're just busy. We got to help the patients, and there's a heavy load on our shoulders helping patients. It's not laying tile or baseboards or doing cement work or electricians. This is like healthcare. This is people's lives. This is HIPAA. This is government control. This is state control. There's guidelines. I mean, there's a lot there's liability insurance. There's tons of stuff that goes with dentists, chiropractors, anesthesiologists, everyone. We got a load on our back. So that's number one. Number two is when we hire someone like Carlin, we want results. The mechanistic and all that. And I've realized this by coaching a lot of people is they're like, this stuff is all great, doc. Get me the results. And I'm like, well, you're going to get the results. That's why you hired a coach. If you just want results, you hire like a Google expert or a Facebook expert. So that's the whole thing here, is that it's all based on results, which puts even more pressure on people like you to perform and to try and get results. But let's talk about the meat of it in between of, the entrepreneur and the results of how to get there. Everyone doesn't want to learn the meat and potatoes of this thing. They just want the end result. So tell us how social media works. Like, how does this work? Like the followers, I love that. It's not about your followers. You can have 6 followers and have a huge reach with your content and reels and posts and stories. So go. It's all yours. Tell us how this works.
I think, I always say followers don't matter, and they don't, because you could have, to your point, you could have 6 followers or 600,000 followers, and you're, just 6 followers, you could be having a $6 million business. I mean, that would be great. But you could also have 600,000 and be broke as a joke. And how do I know that? I've seen it. I've seen it so many times. Everyone's out here touting, I got all these followers and I'm making $1 million, and they're broke. They're broke. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people don't see, is they're touting this falsehood and not backing it up with concrete numbers. And so for me, followers, I don't have a huge following, but I'm doing pretty dang well in business. Also because cobbler's kids have no shoes, social media managers have no social media because I'm busy doing it for everybody else. I try, listen, we all do our best. But for me, I care more about the stuff that you can control. What do I mean by that? Where are you taking people after you're having conversations on social media? To your website. Are they booking an appointment? Are they downloading a freebie because they don't really know you from anybody and they want to see if they're a fit for you? And that means generating lead magnets, creating something that is tangible for people to download and understand more about why they need you and how you can solve their pain point, like literally and also figuratively, right? So thinking about that, that's where I want all of my clients to focus. What is the next step? What does success look like on social media now and 6 months from now? And 9 times out of 10, they just like, I want results. Okay, what does that mean for you?
Right.
Because that could mean, you want more, people in your practice, of course. But you can't just like skip all of the building of rapport, because that's what social media is. If you want people to just book with you, then you need to be running ads.
Yes.
There's two different tactics at play.
100%. The old fashioned way was referral. I mean, before computers, right? But even before websites.
Yeah.
It was referral, it was word of mouth, but we forget, or maybe some of them are so young that they haven't even had to really build from only that, is that that took so much time and effort and investment because you had to build a rapport. You had to get someone in and you had to build your rapport and trust, and you got it through the results. And I think service professionals are like, just get them in the door. I'll do it. I'm a great doctor. I'm a great professional. Yes, you're right. But they won't come through the door now. Now there's social media. Now there's media, tons of media that they can siphon through to find the rapport that they want to build and align with.
Yes. So there's a lot more options.
Way more
There's
options.
a lot more options out there. I mean, just like, and that's why when I tell anyone to create content that feels, and I haven't come up with a better word for this to like get the point across, but like feels a little polarizing or opinionated, but is anchored in your own truth of who you are and what you do and what your practice stands for. That's where you set the tone and allow yourself to be different than the other office 1.5 miles away from you.
Right.
Because I do that all the time. There are 1 million people like me out there. a million, like tons of people. But I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. Like, not everyone can handle my high energetic chihuahua-like personality, and that's okay.
Right.
But I'm also here to not sugarcoat things. So if people like that about me, then they might be more attracted to me.
Yes.
That goes with anything.
Authentic content.
The content
Yeah.
needs to appeal to your ideal audience, not everybody. So I
Right.
want you to right now think about like, who is your ideal client that you serve right now? Because I'm sure we all have like the people that are like, ooh, I like this person because they get it. They understand. They're getting results. We like them. If I could, wave a magic wand and generate an entire practice full of these ideal people, what are their characteristics? What do they like about what it is that I do? And that is a great starting point for the content that you should be sharing with your audience on social, because it'll attract more people like that to you and repel people who are pains in the booties away from you, which is best case scenario. And I think a lot of people care more about like, oh, I just want people to like me. I just want people to like me. Not everyone is for you, and that is how the world goes around. So,
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Those conversations you have in person is how you should kind of try and emulate on social media, is try and copy that, because that's what's magnetic to you. So that's great. So the content there, so that should make things easier for everyone listening. Is like, oh, okay, I can just be myself. And I'm
yeah.
gonna, tie into Canada a little bit, because you don't know about this, but they're being muted up there on what they can say. And that's really over since pre-COVID, like 2019, 2020. So they've been muted, and a lot of them are paralyzed scaredy cats on social media. They don't want to say anything. They've gone in and audited websites saying you can't say vitamin D is good for you. You can't say, kids should get adjusted. So they've been like hit from all different corners. Like, well, what do I talk about? This is all I've ever
Yeah.
talked about. But you can still talk about truths. You can say,
Yep.
chiropractic is part of a healthy lifestyle. You can say all truths, facts, and evidence-based, and still be yourself and get this message out there. And then, because of a muted society, you're going to stand out even bigger. So this is just a little tout for the Canadian crew. Like, oh, wait a minute, you mean I can be loud? Yeah, in America, we're all so loud. We're all on social media. It's competitive. But because you've been stifled up there, you can either stand up and you'll be the tallest mountain, or you can stay, with your head down a little bit. So that's a little call for them, because I do have a Canadian audience as well, and I know you're completely aloof to that, but that's okay. But that's what's happening up there with them. So that's what we're trying to spark here too. So translating this into business plays a huge role. That was great. So it's not about followers. It's just about your content, because what do you end up doing with that content? You can push content by boosting, doing ads, doing stuff that just surpasses followers. And you get way more, like Grant Cardone and Hermosi and all these guys. They don't get, they got a huge following because of all the ads that they run. They run tons of ads and they push a lot of
they
content.
create tons of huge events, stadium-sized events.
Then big events,
right?
yes.
And,
But they got there. They had to build it to get to a stadium, right? I mean, they didn't just start the first event at stadium.
Right. Or they like piggyback on big names like Tony Robbins and things like that, that attracts like-minded audience to get that, elevated fandom too.
Right. But you can do this in your community. Your community is as big as you need to be anybody. Nobody's going to drive from Miami to New York to come see you to do a dental appointment, unless it's something very specific. But so you can stay hyper local in your community and do this. So that's great too. Great. Social media and following. What about tools that we can use to help push more content?
There is a lot of talk right now around artificial intelligence, AI. There is, I think, 200 and some new ones coming out every single month, which is totally insane. What I use a lot with the content that I'm generating at scale is ChatGPT. Now, I use it in 3 different ways, and I have a blog coming out on this soon. And it's inspiration, speed, and repurposing content. So nothing is worse than staring at your notes app on your phone or staring at a blank, screen with the blinking cursor being like, what am I going to post today? I don't know. Right? There's nothing worse. So adding
Right.
some prompts, getting some things into ChatGPT just to spit out ideas. And when my blog comes out this week, it'll already be out by the time you listen to this, right? It will give you some of those sample prompts. And for speed, I always utilize it like I would an intern, if that makes any sense. I ask it to generate national days and observances that are relevant for a specific industry, and it spits it out like that. Of course, I have to double check, making sure that it's pulling from the right year with the dates and things like that. But it's a starting place. And then the last is repurposing content. So if you are out there and you, like clockwork, create an email newsletter, or you create a blog around certain value-driven types of content, you can copy paste your blog or even upload a file to ChatGPT and have it pull and create different types of posts that have specific calls to action to get your audience to move in the way that you want them to move. So again, I'm probably, sharing a little too much, but I just find it's
Great.
super easy to
Super easy.
create content,
Hmm.
and we all want to make it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And that's always a great first step. You should never just copy and paste and put it somewhere. Always, always, always put your thumbprint on it going forward. So AI is great if you know how to use it. It can really be a time saver. But again, y'all are busy. And so even learning a new tool, you're just like, no. So
Right.
that's where, we can come in and help. But
Yes.
it's been a game changer for me and my team, because we used to have a team of 8 people. Now we're operating on 5. And so it's just it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot easier. And we've generated like SOPs around it just to maintain quality and humanness in our content.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a mountain of stuff too. Video's still king, right? I mean, if you're going to create content.
Yes, video
Yeah.
is everything. And I'm sure you guys have seen it, and maybe some of you have created it, but like everyone loves the cracking videos. Like it's just a thing. Like
It's a thing. It really is a
myself
thing.
included. Like I just opened my Facebook video, and literally the first video that popped up was from a chiropractor because I watch a lot of cracking videos. And so if you can come up with a way to add that and plus add ideology, that's real and authentic. Because some of these I'm looking at them, I'm like, is this real? Like it feels a little staged. They could be really a good piece of content to add to your content pillar approach.
Yes. We all talk and get upset about, some of the maneuvers they do on those videos, but they're doing
Mhm.
it to get views. Like that's truly not, people come into the office all the time. Do you do that like pull thing with the rope? I'm like, I have no ropes in my office. Like, we're not doing that.
Well, and
Yeah,
what's
no.
cool is you could literally do a video around like why we don't do this.
Truth. Yeah, you can make stuff on there. And then it's amazing. People want to know what you do. How many things do you stop on? I stop on those guys digging in dirt and making like a pool over 48 hours. Like they just do this fancy pool in the dirt. Like I don't know where they're
Mhm.
at. Cambodia. I don't know where they're in. And then other things that I catch myself stopping on is usually like little quick tasks, the fast forward do it yourself tasks at home on how to do, wainscoting on the walls, painting. I'm like,
Yeah.
why did I just watch that 90-second video? Because it caught my attention. I'm curious on how they get it done. And it's a professional carpenter doing it, so it looks great. But you're a professional doctor. They're wondering how do you do what you do? And
Mhm.
those videos do really, really well. Then you link it with who you are and your brand. Well, now you're starting to get onto something. Now you become
Yes.
something in the community. Like that's the guy, the bald guy that does cool adjustments. I'm going to go see him. And that's
Yep.
how it all starts to, yeah, that's how it kind of all starts to work with your brand. So you don't have to overthink it. It really is simple. I think it's just consistency. It's
Yeah. Oh
that
my
hamster
gosh.
wheel of consistency.
Yeah. And on consistency, I think that's where a lot of us get tripped up into, oh, it's just like feeding the beast, like keep putting content out there.
Mhm.
But I always tell people, if you can't be consistent at least 3 days a week, that's my minimum. You don't need to post 7 days a week. If you're like, Carlin, I'm running an entire business here, like I'm not a content creator, great. 3 times a week, like clockwork. Make it happen and start with one platform.
Yeah.
You don't need to be on all the places, but start on one platform that you know that your audience is on and you know that you can be consistent with. So for example, for me, I am on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my jam. That's where I make the most money. That's where people are doing business with other people like me. That's where I exist. I'm on Instagram for fun. Like if people want to see what I'm doing on my off time, if they want to see where I'm eating, if they want to see me creating content behind the scenes, that's where they're following me. But I'm more consistent posting on LinkedIn and I'm more consistent in Instagram stories. Every day I'm on Instagram stories. But posting on Instagram for me right now is not my priority. And that's a personal business decision because my intent is to build a business that has thought leaders, doctors, PhDs, MDs. Where are those people? Most of them are on LinkedIn.
And it's because you know your platforms and you've tested and you've seen, you've got results. So you just keep pouring money. So this is where I think a lot of people are stuck on the fence. They're like, they don't have the data. So they don't know where to go. And then maybe they've tried something and it really didn't do anything. They feel like they wasted money on Google ads and a Google person, and the Google person costs more than the ad spend. And they're like, I spent $3,000, but they were only spending $900 on Google ads. So, and then they're like, I didn't get anything. I'm like, I get it. So knowing where you're at, I'm going to give you the answer right now for chiropractors and dentists and professionals is Facebook. Like you're going to be posting your stuff on Facebook because your demographic is right there.
Exactly.
You don't specifically want to adjust just dentists. If you did and you're a chiropractor, like I want all my patients to be dentists. That's weird, but you want to help them. Then you'd be on LinkedIn specifically about dentists, doing that's completely different. But you want to help your community. You want to help adults, family, dads, moms, people with back pain, whatever it is. You're on Facebook because the demographic is above 30. That's just makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and most of them, yeah.
Yeah. 40 now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my two cents on that. That is great stuff. So at OSnap Social, how does it look working with you? Somebody gets onboarded with you. You have a whole process, of course. You dissect their social media, you dissect their website, you dissect their brand, I assume. And then what's it look like working with you as the months go by?
Yeah, so we walk everyone through our framework, fan fire starter framework. I love alliteration, but don't ask me to say that 5 times fast. It's definitely a tongue twister. But we really focus on popping the hood, doing our pulse check audit first to understand out of the social media content that you're creating, what's working, what's not working. And we also make recommendations for improvement going forward. The next is the strategy, because if we don't know where we're going, how are we on earth are we going to create compelling content to get you there? Because I think that's a lot of social media people or communications people, they don't hold their clients' feet to the fire, so to speak, to get them to say what success looks like now and 6 months from now. Because it's not just about the 6 months, it's measuring the key performance indicators, the KPIs, every single step of the way to see if you're even on track to getting there. And you have to set realistic goals. Because again, we all want 10,000 followers, right? They don't matter, but somehow 10,000 is like the gold standard that we're all like shiny object. But if you've only been growing 50 per month and you want to get there by the end of the year, it's not happening. Like if you're starting at 9, it's not going to happen. So we make sure that it's tangible, attainable, that we can get it going. And I am not of the camp, because I think there's a lot of marketing agencies out there that overpromise and underdeliver. We are not there. We are people that deliver what we say we're going to deliver and make it reality check for you of the progress that we're making. That's why we have bi-weekly meetings. We meet twice a month because things change. Social media changes, algorithms change, your business changes, who you're serving changes, laws change, everything changes. And so that gives us that baseline to catch up with you to make sure that we're on track. And then, the advancement piece, the last piece of our PSA, is really kind of a choose your own adventure. We can do content for you. So there's a done for you option. There's a done with you, where we create content through the screen, where you're creating content over there while you're doing your video. I'm over here making a graphic and a caption work, popping it into a content calendar. So with the goal that by the end of the 2 and/or 4 hours, you have an entire quarter's worth of evergreen, never going stale content that you can just, have your front desk office manager plug and play into your Facebook page. And then the other thing is you can borrow our brain cells. That's one of our favorite things, is popping on with clients and business owners to really walk through ideation of content and getting a plan in place for the quarter so that you know what you're going to be posting, so you can start to generate that content now before the next quarter starts, for example. And I know a lot of people have, someone inside their office that has the mechanics of social, like they can take video, they can edit video with an app, that kind of thing, but they don't have the strategic angle of why they're filming it, what's the purpose of this piece of content, and the like. And that's where we kind of come in and serve as your kind of social media manager in your back pocket, so to speak. So yeah,
Awesome.
lots of different ways.
Different ways. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And you have a system, and we know you do. And
Yeah.
just saving the viewers, the onboarding. And of course, there's an onboarding in the day section, and many of them have tried. So it's great to know the back and how the engine works on your end. So that's great to do. So I think the easiest way is hello@osnapsocial.com. Like, send an email out to them, and then find her online. And I'll put all the handles in the podcast as well. And just, again, brain cells. Now you have access to Carlin, and then you can just, you can talk to her about all this stuff. Social media is not going anywhere. I don't care what anyone says or what the blogs are saying or whatever it is. It's not dying either. It's you got to be on it. It's the only really form of media. And then being in your community and building that community. And people are like, well, what happens if social media does go? Well, you built the community, you built your brand. If it goes away, you're going to be ahead of the game, because everyone's going to come to you, be like, you're the only guy I recognize, or you're the only gal I recognize. So that's like doomsday, but that's not going to happen. Social media is not going anywhere. It's evolving, it's changing, and there's just going to be more concise social media out there. So that's great. When it comes to ads and boosting and all that other stuff, what do you recommend? It's, of course, content first. And then people always ask me, do I boost all this stuff, or do I create an ad? Different goals with those two things. But if you're trying to build a following, one's probably a better strategy at the beginning than the other, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, one's more cost effective as well. So what I typically, if people want to get into the boosting side of things, I always say boost a piece of content that is already performing well for your kind of, first degree of fans, meaning those people that engage with you all the time. If it's resonating with them, if they're seeing it, they're commenting, they're joining the conversation, then throw 10, $15 behind it and see if it expands not just the impressions, aka the number of eyeballs that see the content, but also the engagement. Likes, comments, shares, saves. You want to see that go up as well, if that's your goal. But also make sure before you boost a post, I see this all the time, and I'm like, no. Before you boost a post, make sure that you have a call to action in there that takes people somewhere else. Specifically, right. If you're putting money behind it, you want ideally for them to go somewhere else. If not, then having just engagement on there is fine. But I want you to be thinking, like, what's the next step? What do I want them to take action on going forward? So that's where I recommend. And Facebook ads are a whole nother ball of wax. And it often changes all the time.
So. We cover that. That's pretty much the meat and potatoes of what I cover each week in this group is the Facebook ad portion. It's a beast, but and always evolving. Gosh, it keeps me on my toes.
It changes all the time. It's annoying.
It's annoying. Yeah, it's a good word for it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Reach out to Carlin. She's absolutely fantastic. And thanks for being on the show. Appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Of course.